the sweet-smelling wind before the rain. In Somaliland, we say Uffo, but Uffo has another meaning. These men, my friends, are Uffo, a group of teachers, doctors, and volunteers. Together, we acted when times were hard. I'm proud of the things we did for Somaliland, but our lives have not been easy. Hargeisa, in 1981. After Somalia lost the war with Ethiopia, many people fled and became refugees in the areas around Hargeisa. The northwestern region suffered terribly. Poverty increased, schools were forgotten, armed soldiers were looting. The people of Hargeisa were being neglected. In the hospital, the laboratory was hardly functioning due to the lack of chemicals and equipment. The blood bank and emergency department were closed, as was the outpatient department. Patients would bring their own mattresses, bedsheets, and pillows. Husbands who brought their pregnant wives to the hospital would be asked by the midwives to switch on their car headlights outside because there was no electricity. A hospital affects the whole of society. What was happening to it was injustice. We needed donations for medicine and for bedding. It was time for us to do something ourselves, a time for self-help. Out of the need to do something about the injustice, our group, the Uffo, was born. What we did not know was that these self-help schemes for the people of Hargeisa would be treated with suspicion in Mogadishu. We did not foresee all the consequences of our actions. Together, the Uffo rolled up our sleeves to repair Hargeisa Group Hospital. We wanted to motivate people with our efforts. We didn't know we would motivate government informants. After a humanitarian organization from Germany offered equipment and volunteers to the hospital, we decided to invite the governor of Hargeisa to inspect our activities. We didn't want our endeavor to look suspicious. We were open. We even participated in radio broadcasts about our project. But many were too scared to openly help the Uffo, to be seen working with the self-help project. In an effort to keep local staff motivated to come to work, we had to rely on donations of sugar, rice, and other food. But it wasn't enough. Without government assistance, there was only so much we could do. Desperate to change things in a secret, a few of our volunteers tried a new idea. They wrote a newsletter called Uffo. They wanted to enlighten people, to teach them of their rights and the government's responsibilities. At that time, there was no free press allowed, no newspapers. As the newsletter was passed from person to person, a copy fell into the hands of a government informant. That is when the government decided that they should do something about us. They had no warrant or anything like that. They just said, we need to take them. They reassured us that we were going to be back within the hour. It turned out to be a long hour. The episode left haunting memories like seeing your wife's terrified eyes, pools of love, overwhelmed by fright and helplessness. We knew we had to stick together to make sure the interrogators got a list of all our names, every person who was involved with what we were doing. We had to show them that we were not alone. They started with just 2 of us, but soon they had 25 of us. It was much more difficult for the government to shoot 25 people. We were aware we would be arrested. Some of us had airplane tickets, visas to go to other countries, everything we needed to run. But we didn't go, and we didn't run. To run away was cowardice. Why should we run if we were innocent? We had done nothing wrong. We work as a help in the hospital and schools, and the government previously supported that issue. It was like that film, Tom and Jerry, and the regime was the cat. We were the mouse. In an attempt to divide the population, the regime tried to only arrest those from same clan, with no exception. We were told that our Uffo group would stand trial. We were charged with treason. Some of us faced death sentences. We were tortured for 4 months. They waterboarded us, gave us electric shocks. On the day of a trial, students, citizens, and our families protested outside the court building. We heard them chanting, "Down with Siad Barre," and "Free our teachers." At first, the police tried to disperse the crowd with tear gas. When that didn't work, things took a turn for the worst. February 28, 1982. I remember the prosecutor telling the court, "Look at these men, the least educated among them holding a secondary school diploma. It would have been a good thing if their objective was to create a charitable organization so that they could help their people. But these men wanted to pit the government against the public. Wary of even more civil unrest and afraid of what reactions might be to our execution, the government changed our death sentence to imprisonment, ranging from 3 years to life. To give the false impression of a fair trial, the state even released a few of us. Then, after languishing in Hargeisa prison for 8 months, we were unexpectedly taken to southern Somalia. 14 of us, sentenced to more than 8 years, were taken to the notorious prison known as Labatanjiro, where we were put into solitary confinement. It was a tiny place to walk back and forth, 3 short steps, and very dark. Cockroaches crawled up from the toilet, and they would fly towards you with excrement on their feet. The noise of the mosquitoes were like a jet engine. Nights were, of course, the worst times. Every sound during the night would increase the rate of your heart. Nights were when your fears, real or imagined, were heightened. It was strictly forbidden to talk to your neighbor. But necessity is the mother of all invention. If one of us tapped a joke and a neighbor laughed, everybody would start knocking on the wall and asking, "What is the joke about?" The guards did not know that we were knocking on the walls because they can't hear. And then, when they see us all laughing, they just say, "Oh, these guys are losing their sanity." And we could imagine that maybe we were going crazy. Many of us were frightened of that. Frightened of going to a certain area in our minds. Afraid we could commit suicide without knowing, without wanting to. After 2 years in a solitary confinement, we were summoned to the warden's office to collect a change of clothes. One of us asked, "Can I have a book?" "Choose one," replied the warden. I don't think even he expected the warden would agree, so he looked for the biggest he could take. The longest was Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, and he decided to read this book through the wall to distract us from our negative thoughts. We all felt great sympathy for Anna. She too was isolated from the society. She was suffering all the time. We felt for her. We cried for her. Anna's story helped. Definitely. In a place like that prison, people become very selfish. You think everybody has forgotten about you. But thinking about other people's situation helped us survive. It even helped us sleep better. In 1989, after more than 7 years, we were promptly taken to Mogadishu to meet the president, Siad Barre. Friends of ours, together with human rights groups, had worked tirelessly to put pressure on the government to release us. To our astonishment, we were told we would be released after meeting the president. The president wanted to meet one of us separately because of his clan. He insisted that we were not a group. We were a different clans. He told us that he hated different clans mixing. Then he told us that there had been a war and the cities we had known were now cities or ghosts. Our people, all our people, were now refugees. He told us it was our fault. We had to learn how to love each other again. It wasn't so easy to fall in love again. It's difficult for people to live with someone who has been in a solitary confinement for so long. And probably Tolstoy had a lot to do with it. Thinking of Anna made it easier for us to talk to each other, to learn to live with each other. 2019. Many friends wonder aloud to us how we were able to survive and keep our sanity. While there were no psychologists to help us, we processed our trauma by sharing our story. We live in an oral society where we take time to listen. People are capable of adjusting to almost any environment. We are much stronger and more resourceful than we ever think. Fighting for justice, that was the greatest motivation. Something you live for and you have to do before everything else. Something far more important than just living for yourself.